Welcome to Mom's Time Out. I'm your host, Heather. Make sure you follow me on my socials and subscribe to the Mom's Time Out podcast on my YouTube channel, or you can stream on Apple and Spotify. If you're here, I know you've got a lot on your plate. Whether you're up all night with a newborn, chasing a toddler or multiple toddlers around, helping your school-age kids with homework, or just trying to keep things together with your grown kids. You're doing it all, and I see you. This space is for every mom, no matter where you are on this wild ride of motherhood. We're keeping it real here. No sugarcoating, just straight up, honest talk. Welcome to today's episode. I'm a busy mom of 3. And I'm still trying to figure out why I thought 3 kids was something that I could handle. They're ages 12, 11, and 5. So if you ever need tips on managing the chaos, no, I am not your girl, because your girl is still trying to figure it out. But hey, we can at least try to figure it out together. I'm also a self-proclaimed master of juggling. No, not like the circus clowns do it, but I do try, sort of, to juggle my kids, my work, my health, and Lord knows everything else in between, because I am a solo parent more often than not because my husband works out of state for his job. And as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I am an Aries woman. Every girl needs an Aries friend in her life. You're welcome. So I do get a little bit fiery when necessary and definitely unapologetically direct. But don't worry, because I'm also a Libra rising. So I'm definitely all about finding that balance, especially when it comes to self-care. And last but not least, I love keeping things real. Because let's face it, motherhood is fucking tough. But if we can't laugh about it, what's the point? Okay, now that you know a little bit about me, let's get into today's episode. We're going to get real about some of the things that no one warned me about before becoming a mom. I'm going to be talking about the guilt, the loneliness, and the absolute exhaustion that comes with this wild ride of motherhood. If you know, you know. We'll also dive into the phrase, it takes a village, where it came from, why it is so misunderstood, and what it really looks like in today's world. Plus, I'll share a few things I wish I had known before stepping into the role of mom, and trust me, some of these will hit you right in the feels. Stick around because this is going to be an episode you don't want to miss. Okay, let's talk about something that every mom can relate to. Whether you are knee-deep in toddler tantrums, or you're in school pickup lines, or the never-ending to-do list that seems to follow you around like a fucking shadow, we're talking about showing the fuck up. And let's get this out here first. Why is it that the responsibility of showing up always seems to fall on us, the moms, no matter what? As moms, society tells us that we are obligated to always be present no matter what. Anyone else can show up whenever, but the moms have to show up. Now, I'm not saying this is a bad thing. It's just a lot of added pressure and expectation. The other day, I was having an emotional meltdown with myself, and I was thinking how exhausted I was in every aspect. But here I am, picking up the pieces of my emotions and carrying on with a load of motherhood. I just want to hibernate for like a month so that I can collect myself. Or maybe just crawl under my bed covers and stay there for a while. One can dream. But that's it. It's literally just a dream. Now, don't get me wrong. We all do technically have the option to not show up, right? We could say, like, yes, I'm going to show up. No, I'm not going to show up. We could also say, you know what? We could say, you know what? Today, I'm done. No lunch making, no school running, no emotional support. I am tapping out. But We are not doing that, are we? Why? Now, yes, you could tap out of some of those because there are plenty of moms, including myself, who have tapped out of like, I'm not doing this anymore today or this week or this month, whatever. But we can't tap out of all of it, unfortunately. And here's the why. Because as much as society wants to pretend motherhood is optional, obviously the truth is we don't really have a choice. So instead, we show the fuck up every single damn day. Whether we're ready for it or not, here we are showing up. Now, here's where it gets interesting. When we show up, we don't always do it in that picture perfect way society wants us to, right? We might be performing the bare minimum, like getting the kids fed, making sure that they're clothed, and doing the school thing. But guess what? That still fucking counts. I don't care if you barely scrapped a meal together or forgot to pack the school lunch again. You are still showing up. And let's not forget the pressure we put on ourselves to be more than just the bare minimum. Aren't we all too familiar with that mom guilt? Like, who are we competing against? But here's the thing. We need to give ourselves more credit for just showing up. Seriously, think about it. Every day is a mothering day. We don't get sick days. We don't get holidays. We don't get a break from being a mom, no matter how much we need it or want it. And that, my mom friends, is an incredibly hard thing to do. The mental load of motherhood is a part-time job on top of the full-time job of being a mom. So when we show the fuck up, we're not just physically showing up. We're mentally showing up too. Don't forget that. We carry the weight of all of it. And here's the deep truth. You are a really good mom. Not because you did everything perfectly today, but because you cared enough to even question whether you're a good mom or not. You're showing up even on the hardest days. You're showing up when you're tired, even when you're overwhelmed. And when you just don't have it in you, you're still there, giving whatever you've got to give. And that, my mom friend, is a sign of a good mom. Thank you for listening to my TED Talk today. I know. It feels like you should be doing more, right? But you don't need to be doing more. You're doing more than enough just by showing up, even on the hardest days. So I want you to take a second, really sit with this. Next time that guilt creeps in, next time you feel like you're failing, I want you to remember this. You're showing up, and that's all anyone can ask for, even when it's not in the way that you imagined, even when it's just the basics. You are showing the fuck up, and that is enough. All right, let's dive into some strategies that help you manage the mom guilt that we all, myself included, face. Because let's be real, if guilt were a sport, we would all be the MVPs. Am I right? But instead of letting that guilt hold us back, it's time to flip the script and reclaim some fucking peace. Today, we're focusing on 3 powerful strategies. 1, setting boundaries with yourself and your guilt. 2, reframing guilt as a sign of care. And 3, practicing mindful self-compassion. Setting boundaries with yourself and guilt. Let's start with the big one. Yes, you can actually do this. I'm talking about setting boundaries with the voice that's in your head that is constantly telling you you're not doing enough, or hello, you should be doing more. You know that voice? Familiar with it? Yeah, that needs to fucking go. Guilt is like that guest that overstays their welcome, right? They knock on the door, and instead of politely saying, hey, I need some space, you just let them in and give them a seat at the table. It is time to show guilt the fucking door, okay? When you feel that guilt creeping in, you need to remind yourself, not today, guilt, not today. Seriously, say it out loud if you need to, because you've been showing up for your family and your kids and yourself in the best way you know how. You are allowed to take a break from that voice. Boundaries aren't just for people, they're for your own mental health too. It is like managing your own inner guilt police. And that police officer, yeah, she needs a coffee break sometimes because you really do deserve it. And when I say this, I'm also saying this to myself. I'm reminding myself by saying it to you. Now, keep in mind that this is not about avoiding guilt. It's about giving yourself space from it when it is unnecessary. Because guilt isn't a taskmaster, it is an emotion, and you don't need to give it control. Now, here's the second strategy: reframe guilt as a sign that you care. Sounds a little crazy, maybe? So let's break it down. Guilt often pops up when we feel like we're not meeting our own standards or someone else's. But that does not mean that we are failing. It means that we care. If you didn't care about being a good mom or taking care of your family, you wouldn't even feel guilty at all. So instead of seeing guilt as a signal that you're doing something wrong, see it as a sign that you care deeply about your role as a mom. Next time guilt hits, instead of letting it spiral into self criticism, self sabotage, try saying, wow, I must really care about doing a good job if I'm feeling this right now. Take a moment to acknowledge what you're actually doing well instead of what you're not doing well. Because guess what? You're doing way more than you think that you are. Now, again, this is not me just spouting off information to help your life better. Everything that I say comes from personal experience, things that I've experienced and things that I've had to go through, learn the hard way, process, and get to the other side from the negative emotion to the positive emotion. And now that I've learned that, now I'm sharing it with you. And with that, I want to share with you a situation that I've been experiencing some guilt. I mean, there's a ton of them, but this is a more recent one. And this is from my son. He is 5 years old and he started his first year in kindergarten. He has done public schools before. We've done Mother Day Out when he was 2 and 3 years old, and he did a private school when he was 4. So he's no stranger to a school setting, but this is his first year going into a public school, into kindergarten. And he is the kind of kid that takes some time to warm up to new environments. So I knew he was going to be a little scared and quiet initially, but I figured he would, eventually just warm up like he has with the other environments. So for August and September, he did pretty good. Started out a little shy and then warmed up. And then about October is when I started seeing some big emotions happening. Him being scared of going to school, just being very resistant and hesitant to get out of the car. I drop him off in the morning. He doesn't ride a school bus. I dropped him off and, I could just see his emotions building up. Like, I don't want to go to school. And he was like crying to get out of the car. The teacher that's there to open the door and get the child out, she's there. I'm having to nudge him out of the car. Sometimes I had to pull over and get out and kind of, talk to him for a little bit, convince him to like have a good day and go. Of course, I was communicating with the teacher and trying to get to the bottom of it and what was going on, what was causing some issues, but there really was no clear answer. And all he was giving me was that he didn't want to go to school and he didn't like school. And granted, I gave him all the grace in the world, being only 5 years old and only having the capacity to, you know, give me some simple terms. I wasn't expecting much out of him, but it just made my job harder trying to get to the bottom of it. So we made it all the way to Christmas break. And I figured, we just need some time, some downtime to be at home. And, we had almost 3 weeks off. And so I figured going back into January, we would be refreshed and recharged and just ready to pick back up and go. Well, it was not like that at all. The first day back to school in January, he was in tears. getting out of the car. He was hesitant again. And I was just like, man, what is going on? So, of course, I was like, okay, I got to start doing some things to, get to the bottom of this. I'm still communicating with the teacher. And then I even went ahead and set an appointment with our therapist that we use in my family. I go to therapy, I've been before, and my oldest daughter saw one of the child therapists there for a little bit. So I went ahead and scheduled a consultation for Hudson to see if, we can get him to open up a little more and help him navigate his emotions. And we did that. And then we went to our first therapy session just last Sunday, and we're going to start going weekly. And then on top of that, I also went ahead and was still communicating with the teacher. I went ahead and sent an email to the principal to get more support within the school, right? We're going to talk about this later, how it takes a village. And sometimes our village is in that school. So it was not only the teacher, I emailed the principal, and then the principal got me in touch with the school counselor. So it was all these things that I was trying to do. So I did send that communication out, right? I had been talking to the teacher, emailed the principal. She hadn't got back to me yet. She only took like 2 days to get back to me. But in that time, my head was spinning and I was starting to feel guilty that I was missing something. Like, what was I not doing enough of? What am I missing? Because I was just feeling so emotionally distraught because my child is emotionally distraught and I feel like I'm doing these things. I'm not seeing any change. So, of course, I'm like, what am I not doing enough of? What am I missing? Like, why is it still so hard? And I really had to talk myself out of that self-sabotage because I had to I had to face reality, which is, Heather, you have communicated with the teacher several times. You have sent an email to the principal. She will get back to you. And you have started him in therapy. And you've tried to communicate with your own child, of course. Look at how many things you have done. Why do you think that you're not doing enough? And the answer to that was that my child's emotions just hasn't changed yet. And we all want that instant gratification. And I don't want to see my child cry. I don't want to see him be upset. That is hard. It's not his fault. He's 5 years old, but I'm taking on his emotions and my emotions, and they're just all a chaotic mess. And of course, I'm just feeling guilty, like I'm not doing enough because as moms, we want to be the fixer and fix all the boo boos, and we can't always do that. And it's so hard. We know that our kids have to go through things. We know they have to feel those emotions, go through them themselves, but also there's a part of us that but can they not? Like, can't we just protect them from all of that so they don't have to, so we don't have to deal with it? But obviously that's not reality, and they do have to feel these things, and we do have to deal with it, and it's really hard to navigate. So since then, the principal has returned my email and we've been corresponding, and I've been in touch with the counselor and we have some things set up for him. Again, it's still just really hard because the mornings are hard. They at school are not seeing what I'm dealing with at home, and it's not their fault. And, at school, he's very compliant and, he may go in crying, but he at some point wipes the tears and then he just carries on with his day. But then, the things that are upsetting him, he's like internalizing, not expressing his emotions. And for all the teacher knows, he's fine. On the outward, he looks fine. And I can't blame her for that. So, but at home, I see everything clear as day. He gives me the full impact of his emotions. He's getting mad at me. He's crying. He's telling me how much he doesn't want to go to school and all these things. And so it's heartbreaking for a mom, and especially as a little kindergartner. This is his first introduction into public school. He's got 12 more years to go, and kindergarten year should be like the fun year. And he is not having near as much fun as I thought that he would. So it's just hard to see. And we're in January now. I would just love to see all this come to a more positive close before we end the year, and to so we can go into the summer and especially into the next school year on a much more positive note. So I will keep you posted on what is going on with that. But that is a situation that I'm currently battling with my own mind and not allowing myself to self-sabotage into that guilt mode, and really trying to focus on what I am doing, because I am in fact doing a lot. If I wasn't doing any of the things, then I feel like I would have every right to be guilty. But I am doing so many things, and that's what I need to focus on. And that it's just part of life. I'm going to have to deal with my child's emotions, whether I want to or not. And I need to be the mom that he needs me to be to help him through this. And again, I've brought in a village of other people to help navigate his emotions because I can only go so far. At 43 years old, I'm still learning how to navigate my own emotions. I need help. I need the principal, I need the counselor, and I need the therapist to help him navigate these things. And I'm just so grateful that we have the capability to do that for him. So, with all that said, when guilt rears its ugly head, I need you to flip the script because it's not a failure. It is a signal that you're emotionally invested and being the best that you can be for your family. That is worth celebrating, not beating yourself up over. And our third strategy is practicing mindful self-compassion. This one is a game changer because it means that you're treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would show a friend, especially when you're struggling. We are so quick to give compassion to others, but when it comes to ourselves, not so much. Sound familiar? We need to be kinder to ourselves, period. Heather, be kinder to yourself, especially when we feel like we are dropping the ball. So next time you feel overwhelmed, stop and ask yourself, would I say this to a friend who is struggling with guilt? Would I tell her she's failing? And if the answer is no, then stop saying it to yourself also. Yeah, Heather. You wouldn't tell a friend, you're a bad mom for feeling guilty. Just get over it, right? And if you are saying that, you should really do some self-reflecting. So why wouldn't you say that to yourself? Instead, treat yourself with the same grace that you would give to someone that you love. You're doing your best, and that is more than enough. It is about giving yourself the same space to feel imperfect that you give to others. And guess what? You do deserve it. You're a human, not a machine. I say that so many times. If I had $1 for every time I told somebody that you are human and not a machine, because you are allowed to have moments of struggle, guilt, and even exhaustion. But you're also allowed to say, I'm doing my best. I'm doing the best that I can, and that's okay. Or say what I say. I am one person, and I can only do one thing at a time or only so many things at once. I tell that to my kids all the time when they're all screaming at me, like 3 of them together, and I'm just putting out fires left and right. Oh my God, I am one person. I cannot put out all of your fires at one time. I'm going to need y'all to calm the fuck down. That's real life. Mindful self-compassion is not just a nice idea. It is a necessity for your mental and emotional health. So give yourself permission to be imperfect and love yourself through the mess. You can be a mess. Just love yourself through it too, okay? So those are 3 strategies. Set boundaries with your guilt, reframe guilt as a sign of care, and practice mindful self-compassion. The next time that you feel like you're failing, you're not actually failing, I want you to remember these tools. They will help you find more peace and stop the guilt spiraling before it starts. I want you to remember that you are doing great. You are showing up every day, and that is enough. You don't need to be perfect to be a great mom. Give yourself permission to rest, reflect, and recharge. You deserve it, and you need it. Okay, let's dive into something that gets thrown around a lot, but is it really understood? The phrase, it takes a village. We have all heard it, right? And while it sounds all warm and fuzzy, there's a deeper truth we need to talk about. Because if you're like me, you've probably thought, hello, where the hell is my village? Hello. So let's rewind a bit and talk about how this phrase came to be. There was a time, not too long ago, but definitely feels like it was a long time ago, when the village wasn't some abstract poetic idea. It was literally the community around you. It was the other moms who lived on your street, the aunties, the grandmas, the neighbors, the ones who all pitched in to help raise the kids. You needed a break, there was someone to step in. Kids needed something, someone was there to lend a hand. The village was real and it was thriving. It was quite literally a communal experience. Now, fast forward to today, and it's different. Now, for many of us, the village has become a very scary, or sometimes it feels like it doesn't even exist anymore. Why is that? Well, let's be real. Life got complicated. Women started working outside the home more, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong. But that shift means that we don't have the same built in community support we once had. It's not so common to have a family member down the street to help take the kids off your hands for a couple of hours. Instead, we are juggling work, kids, schedules, and let's not forget trying to remember to feed ourselves. So, yeah, it's easy to feel isolated, even when you're surrounded by people. But here's the thing, this whole it takes a village thing, it is misunderstood. The village doesn't look the same today, and that is okay. It's not just about the physical presence of women in your life. It is about recognizing that there are people who are a part of your village, even if they don't live in your house or next door. In today's world, the village might look like the teacher who knows exactly what your kid needs emotionally when they're struggling. It's the school counselor who listens when you're overwhelmed and need a non judgmental ear. It's the other moms who give you the side eye at school pickup because they're in the same boat. It's the coach who cheers your kid on in sports or the neighbor who picks up your mail when you're away for a few hours. The village is still there. It's just evolved. And here's where it gets tough because we all want that classic village experience where everyone pitches in, where we're never alone in this. But in reality, the village has scattered. It is smaller, it is more spread out. And the hardest part, we don't always know who is in our village or how to lean on them. So let's talk about that. It's time to figure out who your village is because it might not look like the old school version, but it does exist in a new modern capacity. Maybe it's the teacher who texts you when your kid's having a bad day. Maybe it's the friend who offers you to carpool your kids to practice. Maybe it's the one neighbor who always brings over extra coffee, even when they don't know you need it. But here's the thing. You need to ask for help. Oh my gosh, I have to learn that the hard way. Hello, Miss Independent here. I am definitely overly independent to a fault, and that stems from childhood trauma. But we don't have time to get into that. I'll save that for therapy. I know it's hard to ask, but we have to ask because the village is there. But it's not a village that shows up without a little bit of making the call. Whether it's a text, whether it's a phone call, or even asking for a favor when you're drowning in your to-do list. Those people are out there, ready to help. And look, worst case scenario is they say no, but you have to ask without the expectation of them saying yes. If they say no, they say no, but it never hurts to ask. We have to remind ourselves that the village is no longer just about family. It is about community in all its forms. The sooner we embrace this modern day village, the sooner we'll realize that we are not actually alone. There are people out there who want to help. We just need to know who they are and be brave enough to ask. So take a minute and think about your village. Who's in it? And if you don't know yet, it's time to start building it. One ask at a time. Personal story time for just a second. I am a mom of 3 kids, solo parent. My husband works out of state. I'm also an only child without any parents. Both of my parents deceased earlier in life. My dad passed away when I was 17, and my mom passed away when I was 25 or 26. I honestly forget. Before I got married and had kids. So I've been on my own for quite some time. My internal village has been separated from me for quite a long time. And that has obviously put me in those positions of trying to figure out where else I can get help from. And like I said before, I am dependent to a fault from how I was raised, and I'm having to unlearn some of that in therapy and understand that asking for help is actually strength and not a weakness, and absolutely necessary when you're three deep in kids, okay? And you just can't do it all. You have two hands, one car, and that's it. So my village has been extended to mom friends that my kids are in the same activities and we can carpool. It's been extended to teachers and their schools, counselors, therapists, people in my neighborhood, if possible, doctors, the internet. Thank God for the internet. It can be hard sometimes, but seriously. Thankfully, the internet was already around when my parents passed away because that's literally how I learned how to do so many things between YouTube and Pinterest when it came out, like just all the things, typing in, how do I do this? How do I do this? And where do I go and who do I ask? It was a godsend. So if you're feeling truly alone because you don't have family or you're not married, maybe you're a solo parent or single parent, whatever the case, I can imagine a little bit. Not your exact situation, but very similar in a sense that you feel alone. And I get it. And it just takes a little bit of extra work to branch out and find where else your village is because it is there. But nobody is a mind reader. You have to speak up and you have to ask for help because you never know who is there willing to help. They just don't know you need help. And you can't assume that they see you struggling. You don't know what they're paying attention to. So ask for help. So remember, the village might look different, but it is there. And the most important thing, you are not alone. No matter what your village looks like, it still takes a village, and you are a part of it too. Who can you be a village for? All right, let's get real for a minute. If I could go back and have a chat with my pre-mom self, gosh, I'd have a lot to say. So today I'm going to share just the top 3 things I really wish I had known before becoming a mom. I mean, I can give you a whole novel, but I'll stick with the top 3 things that I really wish I had known before becoming a mom. So buckle up because some of these might hit you right in the feels. The first thing I was not fully prepared for was just how much my life was going to change. This one hit me like an absolute ton of bricks. I had apparently romanticized this idea of motherhood. Okay. I had this cute image in my head where I would just pop my baby in a stroller, grab my coffee, and stroll around the neighborhood or some stores like I was in some peaceful morning walk. I'd be this super chill mom who could still run errands, go to brunch, and have a cute little one just tag along while I lived my new normal life. It was going to be so effortless, right? I know, I sound crazy. Well, surprise, no one told me about the loss of control. It's like someone hit the reset button on my entire fucking existence. Suddenly, nothing was on my time. Nope, not anymore. Everything was on baby time. Because you're on this never ending cycle of feed the baby, change the baby cries, repeat. I found myself looking at my baby thinking, how did you go from being this like cute little bump to the boss of my life? Who's running the show here? I went from being able to just get in the car and go wherever I wanted to a series of complex calculations. Do I have diapers? Do I have wipes? The stroller? Snacks? My patience? I think we have a runner. And enough energy to not scream at the top of my lungs, my freedom! It was gone. Wild, spontaneous me? Distant memory. I mean, I didn't sign up for a full-on life takeover. I literally thought I was just bringing home a little human, not an alarm clock that only lets me do things when she decided I could. Sound familiar? Anybody else relate? Anyone? I'm sure you have similar stories, but it really was such a wild shock to me. Like, I knew that, bringing a baby into my life was going to change my life to a degree, for sure. There would definitely be things I wasn't going to do anymore, and just all kinds of different, life and habit things were going to change. But I was not prepared with how much a baby was going to take over my schedule. I really wasn't. I had no clue. All right, this one is a doozy. You know how you picture a baby and in your head you imagine this sweet little buddy to love on, right? Someone who will gaze up at you with those big soulful eyes, and you're just going to be besties from day one. You picture that adorable face and think, this baby will love me and we'll do everything together. Well, someone should have warned me that motherhood is way more like a loneliness boot camp, because in reality, you were spending hours with a crying, hungry, only sleep on you baby. And guess what? They don't talk. No, no cute heart to heart conversations. And the anxiety, oh my gosh, the anxiety. I learned what anxiety is when I became a mom. You're on this endless loop of trying to figure out, why are they crying? Do you need a nap? Are you hungry? Are you cold? Are you just mad at me? Meanwhile, I'm just standing there holding my baby, just waiting for like the off button to appear. And it never does. And let's not even talk about how isolating it feels when you literally can't leave your house. You are stuck in the loop of tend to the baby, try to sleep, and oh my gosh, is this my life now? It's like you're a full-time caretaker for a tiny human who can't even thank you or give you any kind of affirmation that you're doing a good job. And there are days when you're like, I'm great at this. I've got this. But also, I'm so lonely, I could talk to a plant and get some validation. I never knew that you could feel so lonely in a house full of kids. You spend all day tending to this baby. And for most of us, you're doing it all by yourself. You don't have someone there cheering you on. And this baby is giving you zero validation, especially in the beginning as a newborn, before they open their eyes, before they smile, and can give you some sort of recognition, a little bit of validation that they feel happy. You're in like self-sabotage mode and just wondering like, are you okay? Are you breathing? Am I doing this right? Oh my God, I must be sucking. Like you just keep crying all the time. I don't know what is wrong. And just so many things. And they're so helpless at that age. And you're just like, oh my God, I'm going to mess this up. I'm totally going to mess this up. And because you're so consumed with the baby life and being on the time schedule of a baby, you don't get to interact with your friends the way that you used to. And your friends might also be struggling. So your communication definitely becomes shorter. And in your mind, you're just thinking like you're alone in this for some reason. And that's just a self-sabotaging thought that we do to help ourselves feel more comfortable, ironically, because we're all new to this. We don't know what the fuck we're doing. That kid did not come with an instruction manual. They literally handed us that baby from the hospital and said, okay, on your way now, like 2 days later. I don't care how many books were written about what to do before you have a baby. None of those books were specifically about my child. She had her own things and I had to figure it all out. Those books did nothing for me. So that's why we just feel so alone. We don't know what we're doing and we're just having to figure it out second by second, minute by minute, so forth and so on. And it is so lonely to be in that. And I just was not prepared with that feeling. No one warned me about the exhaustion that comes with motherhood. I mean, I knew I wouldn't be sleeping as much, but I really did think it was going to be like temporary, right? I did not understand that it would be the kind of tired that seeps into your soul, that bone deep tired. You know, the kind where you're just surviving, but there's this constant low level feeling like you're dying a slow death, but somehow still alive just enough to keep going. This exhaustion, yeah, that's not just physical. Oh, no, it is emotional, it is mental, and sometimes spiritual. It's like someone literally siphoned all of my energy, but they didn't take the snooze button. It is a constant mental checklist of, did I feed myself? Did I make sure the baby is still breathing? Wait, am I doing okay? And honestly, the hardest part about that is that it never ends. You're tired, but there's no quitting. And I remember feeling like I was running on fumes for months. And then someone would ask, how are you doing? And I'd just be like, yeah, I'm fine. Just a little tired, a little dead inside. No big deal. I'm not sure if this level of exhaustion is even in the dictionary. You know how people joke about needing 12 cups of coffee to function? I'm like, yeah, but I need a full-on vacation to feel human again. And I never got one. But here's the raw truth. Even with all of that exhaustion, loneliness, and the life-altering changes, I wouldn't trade it. Maybe. Because when you have that baby who just smiles at you, or when you hear the little giggles for the first time, or when they reach for you, suddenly all that exhaustion doesn't seem so bad. And that's where Mother Nature gets you, okay? They seep that stuff in so we don't make a mom-shaped hole through our front door and run away, okay? It's their cute little face, their cute little toes and fingers. And when they eventually smile and talk and just goo at you, it just melts your heart and you're done for, okay? Like you want to run away, but you can't. They just like clutched, just full in. Can't give up now. They're just too cute. They're just too cute. Willpower out the window. What's funny is that I actually didn't even start drinking coffee until my second kid. My first kid, she had a rough go, maybe like the first 3 months. And then she was pretty easy, like getting on a good time with sleep and whatnot. And I wasn't a fan of coffee beforehand. So I just wasn't something that it was like my go-to. I don't know how I got through the sleepless nights that I did have with her, but it happened. Second kid, oh no. I was like, I'm going to have to start liking coffee because there's no way that I'm going to make it. Okay. She was different. All right. This kid latched onto my boobs straight in the hospital out of the womb, and she wasn't going anywhere. All right. She's a Taurus, mind you. She knew what she wanted. She wanted the good stuff. And she was like, yeah, I found my spot and you're not moving ever. And I nursed her exclusively for 15 months. Okay, so many sleepless nights that I was not intending to have because I was not about sleeping with a child in my bed because I wanted my sleep. But she had other plans for me. So, coffee it was. So, yeah, motherhood definitely hits hard, but you do survive it. And at some point, you even thrive through it. And you just learn how strong you are. Because in the end, it really is all worth it. Some days I don't feel like it. I'm going to be honest. Even when you're barely functioning and living off coffee, love, and sheer willpower. I do love my kids. Just being a mom is so fucking hard. And that's okay. You can have both. And that's a wrap on today's episode. We have covered a lot of ground, from the heavy guilt that comes with motherhood to the importance of recognizing your village, even if it doesn't look the way that you thought it would. We've also touched on things I wish I had known before becoming a mom, because let's face it, nothing can truly prepare you for how much you'll change in this role. But you know what? We are all doing it. We're showing up even on the hard days. If today's episode resonated with you, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next one. I'll be back with more real talk, more laughs, and more tips to help you thrive in the chaos of motherhood. Until then, remember, you are not alone in this. And no matter how messy it gets, you are doing an amazing job. See you next time.